talking, they're pounding it out, they're working it out, and I am confident they're going to reach a consensus and this bill is going to pass. You know, look, this is hard fought. It's one big, beautiful bill, which means the key word is big. It covers all of the things that the president promised, and that's a huge amount of things to get accomplished. And I think we're feeling positive and we're feeling optimistic. And sure, is it a lot of work? Oh my gosh, it's a lot of work. Speaker Johnson and Senator Thune are doing a great job, and I think you're going to see this pass. It's hard work, but it's coming our way.
By the way, welcome to Christy Lee's DC Dispatch. We'll have more on that big, beautiful bill in just a bit. But first, it's been another busy day for our president. Later this afternoon, he is participating in a visit with the foreign ministers of the Democratic Republic of the Congo and the Republic of Rwanda. And, you know, obviously there was that kind of sudden presser that we saw there just a little bit ago. You know, every day that I look at the White House schedule and I see President Trump's plan, it just blows my mind. I really do ask, when does this man sleep? I mean, just earlier in the week, he was in the Netherlands having a breakfast at 2:30 in the morning, our time. I just don't understand how this guy does it. I mean, it's truly incredible. But again, Lindell TV's Kara Castronova, she's been invited into the Oval Office press pool for his visit there, which could be promising for her to get another question in, because we did just hear Trump saying, hey, who are you? Oh, I really like you. After she asked an election integrity question, which we'll be reviewing. If you missed it, we'll be reviewing that soon enough. Coming up, previewing that, as well as major Scotus decisions today and some things that came out of that presser, I believe. Meanwhile, the White House still trying to claw back the narrative about U.S. airstrikes in Iran from the fake lying news media. Just the news saying President Trump is throwing down, threatening to sue CNN and the New York Times for reporting on a leaked intel report that claims U.S. strikes only set Iran's nuclear program back a few months, not obliterated, like Trump says. His lawyers are demanding retractions, calling the stories defamatory, but both of those outlets right now, they are standing firm. Here's Norman Rowell, former ODNI National Intelligence Manager for Iran, with his analysis.
I think you also have to understand that initial reports are often based on the initial information received by analysts at the time. And this was very early on after the attacks were being reviewed. So the analysts at the time may not have even known the complete extent to which the Israelis and the United States had conducted all of their attacks. And keep in mind, we're talking about attacks at multiple sites. So what does that mean? So if you look at a site and you say moderate to severe damage, well, at the Iraq plutonium facility, it appears that the Israelis have destroyed the reactor. But based upon imagery, I understand that the heavy water facility next door has moderate damage. So you could have in a sentence the phrase moderate to severe damage. But your final assessment for the site would be that reactor is finished. It's not going to be making a plutonium weapon in the near.
So there he is. He's explaining how they took this one leaked document and they cherry picked what made it sound like it was not obliterated. And it was a preliminary assessment. And he explains you'd have to look at the totality. You'd have to give it more than a few days to see how it is explained that this was really taken out. But the Telegraph is reporting that Iran's got a secret nuclear hideout called Pickaxe Mountain, buried deeper than ever, and it might be out of reach of even Trump's bunker buster bombs. Despite claims of obliterating Iran's nuclear program, experts say the ultra-secure tunnel complex could still hide enough uranium to keep Iran's nuclear dreams alive. This is also a question that President Trump took in the presser just moments ago, and he is saying that there's no truth to this. The Jerusalem Post says Israelis' military strikes have smashed Iran's nuclear program, with the IDF claiming they've set it back years, though some U.S. intel not fully sold yet, probably the deep state people. Israel commandos even snuck into Iran for covert ops, making this a wild victory lap for the Mossad and IDF. Secretary of State Marco Rubio pushing hard on Trump's claim that U.S. strikes took out Iran's nuclear program, especially a key facility for making bomb-grade fuel, according to the New York Times. Rubio has been calling foul on reports saying otherwise, saying outdated, and the FBI is digging into those leaks. As I reported yesterday, Hegseth says they are looking to criminally charge someone with the leak that was misleading. They say is misleading. In fact, Times of Israel reports U.S. says it monitored all Iran nuke sites before strike, and they did not see any enriched uranium moved. Meanwhile, big talks from Iran. Just the news reporting that Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, in his first public statement since the ceasefire, had declared Iran victorious and said they gave the U.S. a hand slap with a missile strike on a Qatar base. He's downplaying the U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iran's nuclear sites, claiming the U.S. got nothing out of it. Again, this was another question that Trump was this question was brought to Trump in that presser moments ago, and he was basically mocking this and saying that he just needs to tell the truth, that no, they got hit hard. Washington Post reporting Israel PM Benjamin Netanyahu had plans to hit Iran's nuclear sites way back last fall, even before Trump's diplomatic push. But Netanyahu says, oh, hey, here's some more fake news. According to Times of Israel, he said that's nonsense and insists Trump acted on shared intel for America's interests. However, for critics who say Trump has been shifting more to an Israel-first position, this next report is not doing him necessarily any favors. Times of Israel reporting that President Trump is demanding Israel drop the corruption trial against PM Benjamin Netanyahu, calling it a ridiculous witch hunt, and saying the U.S., which saved Israel from Iran, will now save Bibi. This unprecedented move has sparked heated debate, with some Israeli ministers cheering Trump on, while opposition leader Yair Lapid says he should stay out of Israel's legal system. Now, I did hear another take on this, that this was an opportunity for Trump to actually draw attention to the fact that Netanyahu is having this, what he says, witch hunt. But some people say it's a tactical move to just get more eyes on the fact that he does have this corruption trial against him. So there's that thought behind it as well. You never do know with Trump what kind of moves he's making. Well, let's turn our attention to America first, namely the White House in D.C. And that is where we find our Kara Castronova, who will be in the Oval Office in less than 2 hours. Man, running around, covering the presser and all that. So, Kara, what are you finding out about the importance of this visit? Congratulations about being called on by the president and complimented, by the way.
Thank you. It was exciting. That was a last-minute presser that they notified us at 11, and the president came out. It was a surprise because we don't generally get to see him in the briefing room. So today was a special day, and we did get a question in, which I'll play for you in a little while, regarding the 2020 election, which so many people still have questions about, as you know, Christy. But first, there's a visit in the Oval Office. I'll be in there. If you guys could pull up that article on that visit today, there's a peace deal that the president spoke about at the briefing as well, and how important this peace deal is. That AP article about Congo and Rwanda, how they will sign this U.S.-mediated peace deal to end the conflict in eastern Congo. Obviously, the president spoke today about how horrific that war has been, and the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda are set to sign this peace deal. The U.S. facilitated this. President Trump alluded to somebody that was very intelligent within his administration that actually was able to pull off this deal. And this is a decades-long deadly fighting that has been happening in eastern Congo, and also minerals. There's a lot of minerals, obviously, in eastern Congo, critical minerals. So this will help the U.S. government and American companies gain access to those minerals. So it should be an interesting Oval Office visit. I'm looking forward to being in there and witnessing that today. It is pretty historical. It is a pretty much overlooked war that's been going on, like the president said, for decades. It's very deadly, and it's bloody. So it's good that there's a peace deal signed. The president was able to pull that off against all odds. Like I said, it's been happening for decades now. And, today's presser really was focused on all of the big Supreme Court decisions that came out today. The Supreme Court came out with that decision, obviously, about birthright. It was centered around the birthright citizenship question, but really what came out of that decision was that the Supreme Court said that these judges are overstepping, that the answer to presidential overreach is not judicial overreach, which I thought made a lot of sense. That was actually from Amy Coney Barrett. She said something along those lines. And, frustration with Amy Coney Barrett over the past months, I think, with Trump supporters, but that was a good decision that she actually sided with conservatives and not liberals, saying that these judges are out of control. They've overstepped their boundaries. And really, it is the president who is able to make a lot of these decisions. There was a clip I wanted to share with you. MSNBC guest melting down over birthright citizenship, where her eyes are literally popping out of her head. Please take a watch.
It is effectively yes.
Yes, that's a distinct possibility, because if a state isn't allowed to obtain a nationwide injunction, then what the Supreme Court has said is every individual plaintiff, they can only get relief as to themselves individually and their children. So that means an individual, a U.S. citizen baby whose parents haven't obtained a lawyer, that the executive branch could deny them citizenship simply because they were not able to file a case to challenge the order as to them. That is just, I think, an appalling result, given how difficult and expensive it is to obtain lawyers. And again, we're talking about a very vulnerable population here. You know, individuals whose parents might be undocumented, who might be here without legal status, and you are requiring all of them to obtain lawyers to ensure their children are able to have their constitutional right of birthright citizenship.
Lisa, I know you want to weigh in too.
Yeah, I think a couple of
Wow, you weren't kidding. She was like, what is it with these people? You can always tell from the eyes, you know, that it's biblical, really. Like it tells us in the Bible that the eyes are the window to the soul. And yeah, that was a scary sight.
You're right. Obviously, this is a big win, Christy, for the Trump administration, and answers a lot of questions about these judges, really, who have been trying to stymie the president's agenda since he first took office in this second term. And here's the president actually speaking at the press conference as well. Obviously, they think this is important enough, and it is, to have an impromptu press briefing here at the White House. So here's President Trump just about an hour ago speaking on this Supreme Court decision.
Thanks to this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with numerous policies that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis. And some of the cases we're talking about would be ending birthright citizenship, which now comes to the fore. That was meant for the babies of slaves. It wasn't meant for people trying to scam the system and come into the country on a vacation. This was, in fact, it was the same date, the exact same date, the end of the Civil War. It was meant for the babies of slaves, and it's so clean and so obvious. But this lets us go there and finally win that case, because hundreds of thousands of people are pouring into our country under birthright citizenship, and it wasn't meant for that reason. It was meant for the babies of slaves. So thanks to this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with these numerous policies, and those that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis, including birthright citizenship, ending sanctuary city funding, suspending refugee resettlement, freezing unnecessary funding, stopping federal taxpayers from paying for transgender surgeries, and numerous other priorities of the American people.
Yeah, you know, even before that, with that last clip, it's nice to have Trump clarify the point here, because this is the tactic of the leftist liberals. They always try and find the most emotional, sensitive, heartstring type, most often ludicrous situation, and play upon people that way in order to deceive them. And so he brings it back to the point on whether it's constitutional or not, what it was intended for, rather than interpretation. And you know, they were even trying to do this to Pam Bondi, getting the cart before the horse, again, on this emotional spiral, rather than keeping the facts as they were, or waiting to see what happens with this.
Yes, definitely. Like the president said, you know, a lot of people believe that that was in the Constitution, birthright citizenship for slaves. And that was something I actually was interested in looking more into. That is very interesting. And Pam Bondi spoke as well at this briefing. People were very interested in asking questions of the president, but she did take some questions. And here's Pam Bondi talking about today marking the 2,711th arrest on terrorists and gangs, a lot of the work that she's been doing at the Department of Justice. Please take a listen to Pam Bondi from today's briefing.
Today marks 2,711 arrests on these terrorists and these gangs. Total arrest today with HSI investigations. And thank you, Stephen Miller. Thank you to Homeland Security. Thank you to everyone working hand in hand with the FBI on all of these transnational gangs. TDA has been a huge terror to our country, as well as MS-13, as well as Sinaloa cartels. No longer. No.
There she is, bringing it back to reality.
Yes, for sure. And Todd Blanche was also there as well. excuse me, Christy. He is with the Department of Justice, and he spoke about another really important decision, and a lot of us here at Lindell TV care deeply about, and that's the transgender and parental rights issue. A lot of parents very upset about this agenda being pushed and shoved down their children's throats when they're going to grade school. So there was a Supreme Court ruling regarding that, and here is Todd Blanche from DOJ speaking about that at this briefing.
Another great decision that came down today, the trans books case, which restores parents' rights to decide their child's education. Seems like a basic idea, but it took the Supreme Court to set the record straight, and we thank them for that. And now that ruling allows parents to opt out of dangerous trans ideology and make the decisions for their children that they believe is correct. And so we thank the Supreme Court for that.
Great news for parents like myself who spend a lot of emotional battles with a former school district, actually moved out of that previous school district that was really intent on pushing pornographic content under the guise of it being LGBTQ. It's so hard to say any of that. They keep on adding more to it. But they do it under this guise of inclusion, and it's straight up pornography. And many a school board meeting that I attended with other parents. And so it's good that there's a win here.
It is definitely a win for the Trump administration and for parents around the country who want to be able to choose what their children are hearing about sex and all of these things. And then to the question that I asked, which I was very excited to be called on, obviously, by President Trump, and who even asked where I was from. I said Kara from Lindell TV, and he almost, I think, was under the impression that people would think that it was a question that was planted because it's about the 2020 election, which obviously the 2020 election is something that is unresolved. And these are facts. There was never a real investigation. There was no DOJ investigation.
The legacy media has been trying so hard to memory hole all that. They mocked it into oblivion. And now as more evidence that we've been bringing here on Lindell TV continues to pour out, they're still not asking these very important questions about election integrity, and particularly figuring out what happened in 2020. So he was probably taken aback because this is a question that they never have the curiosity to ask about.
Right. And he mentioned that a lot of people tell him just forget about it. It's the past, but it's not. The president knows that obviously elections are very important to our constitutional republic, and that when he's not around in 3 years, it's very important that we maintain integrity in our elections. And like I said in my question, so many Americans still have questions that are unresolved. They don't trust voting. They don't trust the election booths. They don't trust any of these things. And I asked him if there was an update on the special prosecutor that he mentioned on Truth Social that he would be appointing, as well as and it was completely relevant to the subject today, if Pam Bondi, who was standing right there, would consider looking into the rogue judges. We're talking about rogue judges that allowed for political persecution of President Trump, his family, his allies, his supporters. So many people at Lindell TV were politically persecuted by the Biden administration and Merrick Garland. So would he consider looking into that? And I just really wanted to put that into the universal mind because I think that's so important. People don't trust judges. People don't trust elections. And these are things that a lot of this feedback all over social media and from people I talk to every day. So these things need to be resolved. And please take a watch of my question that I asked President Trump today.
Red dress.
On the 2020 election, is there any more information on the special prosecutor? So many Americans still have questions about the 2020 election. And speaking of rogue judges, would you consider appointing somebody at DOJ maybe to investigate the judges that allowed for the political persecution of you, your family, and your supporters during the Biden administration?
I love you. Who are you?
I'm Kara from Lindell TV.
Well, it's just a very nice question. And it's not a setup. I have no idea who you are, but I appreciate that question. All I can say is we're not here for that. I hope so. I hope they're doing a thing because that election was rigged and stolen, and we can't allow that to happen. A lot of people tell me, sir, you just won the greatest election in the history of our country. You won at numbers that won all 7 swing states, won the popular vote, won everything. Sir, go on with your life. And many people that say that, good people, friends of mine. Then you have people that say that same thing, go on with your life, but you have to find out what happened because you can't let that happen again. Look at what this lunatic did. Look at what he did. He opened our borders to people that were murderers, 11,888 to be exact, murderers. And we've captured many of those murderers and we're bringing them back, or some of them are so dangerous.
And it goes on from there. And I want to encourage viewers that if you're just tuning in, that we have shared that on our Lindell TV X page. And so if you're not following that already, you can watch the whole thing in its entirety. And please make sure that you're following us on X. But I just love watching that even for the second time, because this time I noticed Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche, their reaction, their huge smiles as he says he loves you. And then it was like a backhanded compliment because he said, I have no idea who you are.
Right.
But you can't help but laugh. I mean, it was just such a very real moment. I'm sure that was thrilling.
I think he was trying to make the point that it wasn't a planted question. And so many people are resharing it. Dom Lucre, actually, and I know Dom Lucre, I guess he didn't recognize my voice, but he shared it. And he said, oh my God, a reporter actually just asked about the 2020 election, because nobody wants to ask these questions. The mainstream media has completely just abandoned ship. Not that they were ever on board with any of this stuff. They always went to bat for the quote unquote safe election, this most secure election of 2020, when so many Americans have questions, and it's the media's job to ask those questions. So Dom Lucre actually shared it and said, look, a reporter is actually asking about the 2020 election. Thank God. So we have to keep these questions alive. It's so important. It wasn't that long ago that, this happened. It wasn't long ago at all, and it could happen again if American people aren't diligent and reporters don't do their job. Yes. So I was glad to ask that question today, Christy.
Yes. Well, I'm really excited for your going to the Oval Office here in just a bit. Maybe he'll call on you again since he's expressed his love. We hope so. But very proud of you, Kara, and how you represent Lindell TV in asking a fearless question that so many people care about and isn't being asked enough about. So really looking forward to if you can make some headway there in the Oval Office. Big moment for you. I'm so excited for you. So thank you so much, Kara.
Thanks, Christy. Have a great show.
Thank you. So again, Kara Castronova killing it on a Friday. Wow. I mean, it just blows you away, everything that's happening on a Friday. Here in the news business, we tend to count on Friday being like a slow news day. It certainly has not been one of those slow news days on this Friday, but lots of exciting things happening. Way to bring a smile into the weekend. We're going to take a quick break right now, and we'll see how much I'm able to cover when we return, because I know I'm quickly running out of time, but hopefully we'll hit on some economic news and a bit more when we return.
Whether it's being a weekend warrior or spending time with your family, feeling your best is the key to doing the things you love. That's why I'm excited to tell you about Nirvanta. It's a natural solution designed to help you stay active and live well naturally. Nirvanta is a topical blend of all natural essential oils like frankincense, myrrh, and a proprietary gold standard plant stock extract. It's perfect for your hands, feet, knees, back, or anywhere else that needs a little extra care. Use Nirvanta proactively as part of your daily maintenance routine, and you're guaranteed you're going to feel the difference. Simply massage Nirvanta in for at least 60 seconds, 2 to 3 times a day to get the best results. And if you're not completely satisfied, you get your money back. No questions asked. There's simply no risk and no reason not to try Nirvanta today. Right now, you get 15% off with code Lindell exclusively at nirvantahealth.com. So stop reaching out for that medicine cabinet. Get Nirvanta instead and experience the difference. Go to nirvantahealth.com. Use code Lindell to get 15% off today. Nirvanta Health. Live well naturally.
Christy Lee's DC Dispatch. Let's see how much news we can get through in the final few minutes. Trump sounding off about the NYC mayoral primary. Breitbart saying President Trump unloaded on Zohran Mamdani, calling him a communist lunatic after Mamdani took the lead in New York City's Democratic mayoral primary, slamming his backers like AOC and Chuck Schumer. Trump's post on True Social warned that Democrats are going ridiculous with this pick, sparking a firestorm as Mamdani's socialist views shake up the race, and his views are quite radical. Listen to his response on what he would do if Benjamin Netanyahu ever came to New York City.
Mayor Mamdani, would you welcome Prime Minister Netanyahu to New York City for the for whatever he comes for, given the US is not a signatory to the ICC, so he can travel to the US, unlike a lot of other countries. Would a Mayor Mamdani welcome Benjamin Netanyahu to the city?
No. As mayor, New York City would arrest Benjamin Netanyahu. This is a city that our values are in line with international law. It's time that our actions are also.
Even though the US is not a signatory to the ICC?
No, it's time that we actually step up and make clear what we are willing to do to showcase the leadership that is sorely missing in the
Democrats gonna Democrat, let's just arrest anyone we don't like. But pretty wild statement. I mean, they tried to arrest, they did arrest President Trump. They just weren't able to throw him in jail. But this is just, talk about radical. But check this out. Semaphore reports that NYC's business elites are freaking out over socialist Zohran Mamdani's primary win. They're ditching Andrew Cuomo and pouring overwhelming support into Mayor Eric Adams to stop Mamdani in November's election. Despite Adams' 20% approval rating and corruption charges, Wall Street sees him as their last hope to keep the city from a leftward swing. The Associated Press says Mayor Eric Adams has just kicked off his independent re-election campaign, slamming Democratic nominee Zohran Mamdani as a silver spoon socialist, while touting his own blue-collar roots. Now, maybe that should be silver bling bling instead of spoon, as CNN rolled some embarrassing rap video of this guy. You got to see this.
And before that, he was an aspiring rapper under the name Mr. Cardamom. Listen. Down for you. For you. Make a sign for you. Once you do it, it's out there. It never comes back. It's there.
Didn't think it was going to be on CNN.
It's there, and there it is. So what do you say to people who look at your background and they wonder? They say, okay, rising star you may be, but this is the largest city in America, $112 billion budget, 8 million people, and a hell of a lot of problems. And they say, okay, whatever the future may be, you're not ready now.
I would say that a campaign offers a glimpse of what an administration would look like. And we built a campaign the likes of which the city has not seen in a long time. We started with 2 full-time employees and now are managing 50,000 volunteers. At the beginning of this race, there were questions of whether we'd get 50,000 votes.
What a loser, right? He's like, I didn't think this was actually going to show up on CNN. Oops. As far as Trump's big, beautiful bill, his supporters are saying failure is not an option. Watch.
What the editorial content is. And I would hope that you would not be okay with that. They could literally...
We know full well failure is not an option. We are going to get this bill done because we are not going to have a $4.5 trillion tax increase at the end of this year, and we are not going to default on our debt. We always need to remember this reconciliation bill contains an extension of the debt ceiling, and we at Treasury have already told Congress that you need to get this done before you go on your August recess. So we anticipate that we are going to continue to work 24/7, as the President has said. We'll lock people in a room and get it done. But we continue to believe that we are going to have a breakthrough very shortly so that we keep on track for our July 4th timeframe.
We'll see. Come on, people. And no thanks to weak leader John Thune. I should hope that these guys can get it done. I mean, enough is enough. As far as that rescissions package, Politico is reporting that the White House budget boss, Russell Vought, is fighting tooth and nail to convince skeptical senators to slash the just over $9 billion from NPR, PBS, foreign aid. But he's hitting a wall with GOP resistance over cuts to global health and public broadcasting. Come on, people. Really? I mean, it's just a Democratic mouthpiece anymore, the public broadcasting. So got to see what happens with that as well. Man, could use some GOP being able to get things done. But good news is the market seems to be doing well. So we're going to continue to keep an eye on that. Record highs closing bell yesterday. But you know what? That's all the time I have here on DC Dispatch. Stay tuned because there's going to be more of Kara Castronova in the Oval Office, so you're not going to want to miss that. So thank you for watching. Have a great weekend, and that's it for Christy Lee's DC Dispatch.